Jubilee, the biggest spark plug and the most exciting upbeat character in all of X-Men. Not to mention the youngest ever X-Men. Now today, y'all, we are getting ready to learn a little bit more about Jubilee's lore, and we're gonna compare the Marvel Rivals version of her lore compared to what the earlier comics have to go off of. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about Jubilee, but maybe you're not all that interested in actually reading the things and stuff of that nature, I do highly recommend X-Men 97. It's a good way to get a starter brief introduction of who Jubilee is and even learn a little bit more about the X-Men lore altogether, but you guys will get to see who she is and how her personality kind of is around the team, and you know, you'll get a better idea of Jubilee. For the other fans out there that just want to hear a little bit more about the lore, why don't we start off with Rivals? So Rivals has it as Jubilee was with her fellow X-Men when a temporal storm relocated Krakoa to the year 2099. Unfortunately, the effects of the time stream entanglement caused her adopted son, Shogo, to become trapped in his dragon form. Now, some of y'all might be thinking like, whoa, hold on. Shogo, who is this? Adopted son? I know, I'm telling you, as her adopted son, that's the kind of situation they in right now. Jubilee traveled to Tebes. It might be that I might be pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. In the collapsed timeline, hoping Apocalypse could help her find a solution. But in exchange, she had to become his horseman and helping him absorb the faith of gods. So that's why you guys see in the trailer where they show off Apocalypse and Jubilee kind of having that brief interaction, and she's calling him Big Blue. She's really helping him out because she needs whatever type of help she can get for her own child. So that's the kind of situation we are in right now, and how she's mixed in with the time entanglement, and it makes sense, especially if we're going off of her earlier lore. And again, for the newer folks out there that might not know anything about Jubilee, I'll just give you a quick little brief rundown. Jubilee was an orphan, and at some point she decided to run away, and she found herself living in one of the local malls where she just was getting by to survive and everything like that, and she was getting by just fine. Her mutant powers had already kind of started to activate, so yeah, she had her little parlor tricks and stuff, so she had those things. But always keep in mind, y'all, mutants got the biggest amount of racism toward them. That nobody liked the mutants. They treated them dirty. But for Jubilee, her powers, again, to most people look like fireworks, even though there's so much more than that. And again, we will get into that in a second. Now, while she was surviving in the Beverly Hills Mall, she actually encountered the X-Men and just decided to follow them through one of their own little portals, and she just stayed stashed away there for a long time. On this article, it doesn't specify how long exactly, but she was stowed away in there and just was kind of living off however she could get by, until one day the X-Men were attacked, and Jubilee came out and rescued the day and helped out our boy Wolverine. Because of that, Wolverine took a strong liking to her, and her and Wolverine started to connect instantly and had a nice little bond, and she was like his little sidekick. So he became the mentor, taught her everything that she knows. So again, with that being said, you already know the combat skills, they actually on par. And at some point throughout the timeline, she then became an official X-Men member, making her the youngest X-Men ever. Now, Jubilee has always had like this upbeat, sparky, kind of joyous personality, and that's just who she is, even in the comics, in the cartoons, and any and everything else that you see her in. The only time I could think she might not have been like that is maybe in the movies, but I can't remember if they actually included her in the movie or not, but that's neither here nor there. Now, when it comes to her abilities, I'll be honest, at one point, because I did not actually read the comics on Jubilee and claim like I have, but I thought, man, if all she can do is create fireworks, Jubilee just seems kind of worthless. Like, it doesn't even seem like she's that strong of a mutant. But that's where you're wrong. Even in the Marvel Rivals lore, they tell you guys that her mutant ability is actually pyrokinetic plasmoids, but people just always address them as fireworks. But when you get into it and you're actually learning more about her mutant ability, they are explosions, and they are dangerous, and they are lethal. I think they just really played well into her character. Like, her mutant abilities and her personality went hand in hand, and it just made for the perfect character. She had a bright, sparkly, firecracker type of personality with the perfect mutant ability, but she eventually fell victim to the mutant's dissemination, losing her ability. So Jubilee was no longer a mutant. She had lost all her powers, and she decided to rebrand herself as Wondra, and she was defying the superhero system alongside other depowered mutants and some other major corporations and things of that nature. And at this time, this was a huge change to her personality and everything of that nature. Again, she was still relatively young, still in her teen years, so to have that happen where you no longer are technically a mutant, you no longer have your powers, it's a life-changing event. But life wasn't done with her just yet. Jubilee had faced another major change to her identity when she was transformed by Zaris, if I'm wasn't pronouncing that right as well. I do apologize. But she was transformed into a vampire, and then eventually later on saved by the X-Men, and then she had rejoined them. I say that and get back to Marvel Rivals because they had already gave you the cosmetic of the Midnight Mutant. Y'all see it right here. Rivals decided to go ahead and put that in there ASAP and just gave you her vampiric form. You know what I'm saying? Now, did she have her mutant abilities at this point? I don't believe so. I think she was just full-blown vampire and was going off of that. So the fact that they put it in here, again, is kind of letting you know exactly where the timeline is. We are past all of these things. This is the Jubilee of the past, but it is still fire that you get it. This ain't just like some random, oh, hey, here, we giving you this random vampire skin that doesn't have any correlation to her. Instead, it actually has one of the biggest correlations because, again, it's such a major event in Jubilee's life, and you get to even play as this specific skin. The fact that Rivals included that, and I know they have done that with a lot of the other characters, fire. Now, I did say that Jubilee did end up rejoining the X-Men, and in that process, as time went on, she eventually was able to get her powers back by one of the students there, and I guess this is one of their mutant abilities. They had cured her of her vampiric powers, and then she got her spark plug powers back. And that's kind of just how things went, and we get into a big time skip, and we find out Jubilee then adopts her son, Shogo, and apparently he has the ability to turn into a dragon. That's kind of where we are now, which is where Rivals comes in. That would be just about the end of it, right? Unless you was trying to do a super deep dive into her lore. There's still more in Jubilee's life, obviously. Like I said, now she's probably in her early 20s, if anything, mid 20s at this point, which is where we are right here in Rivals. But now I really wanted to kind of get a little bit more into Jubilee's powers. I wanted to compare how Rivals is doing her abilities compared to what the comics said for her abilities. Now, again, like I stated before, I thought that Jubilee's abilities was kind of like, you know what I'm saying? But then I had to look it up myself. I wanted to know, is Jubilee an Omega level mutant? Now, the obvious answer is no, but it is stated that while she is not an Omega level mutant, she's widely recognized as having the potential to be an Omega level mutant. While usually known for generating just the colorful fireworks and stuff that she makes, true upper limits of her abilities allow her to manipulate particles and trigger a nuclear explosion. Almost kind of like how Gambit is, where Gambit is always working on keeping his powers at bay. Gambit is another mutant that could potentially also be an Omega level mutant. So I say all that to say that Jubilee's powers are actually crazy if she was to ever get to that top-notch level of them. Kind of like how Magneto is. Magneto is damn near at the peak of his abilities, which is why he's Omega level. And even getting into it even more, they say atomic/nuclear blast. Her powers can scale from harmless sparks to massive destructive explosives, rivaling nuclear devices, as demonstrated when she destroyed an entire alien spaceship. I wanted y'all to hear that part because that plays into now Rivals, where Rivals has her as this DPS/strategist, right? She's more of a strategist, of course. You guys are seeing in the gameplay that she has the capability of just wiping people out. Now, some folks might be like, why is a strategist that damn strong? Why is she doing that much damn damage? And that's the reason why, is because her powers have the ability to be a damn nuclear bomb. Now, where I think is dope on Rivals in is they put their own little twist in there to give her abilities healing capabilities, because again, it's everything that Jubilee does. It sounds like this is destructive or it's extremely playful and something that kids would see at like a birthday party, and it's like, oh wow, that's super cute and fun and stuff like that. So they gave her one end of her abilities, the destructive part, but to just add their own slight little twist with it, especially since they can always just use things like the time entanglement kind of manipulated her abilities a little bit to give them more than just destructive capabilities. They have more of a healing factor on top of the fact that she can also be extremely dangerous and destructive with them. She just has to constantly balance the two out. I think I enjoy that idea, and I think it's fire the fact that that's in the game. So Jubilee being this strategist/DPS makes a whole lot of sense, especially if we're going off of this time. Now, currently, I don't have any more lore for you guys on the Rivals end because, as you guys can see on here, Generation X and Year of the Snake are both locked off from Jubilee's story. But you guys can get in here and you can see the rise and fall, and you can read her like love letters / kind of journalish thoughts that she has written down and learn a little bit more about the current situation with this time entanglement. and how she's doing everything that she can within her powers to try and get her son back to his normal state and out of that dragon form. And who knows, maybe there'll be like some little Easter egg that we find on one of the maps where you see her son kind of like floating or flying around as a dragon. And again, that's just leading into more of Jubilee is trying her best, even if it means being a horseman with Gambit, by the way, y'all. Don't forget, Gambit was also a horseman to try and save her son. So I like it. I like how everything is tying together and it makes sense. And I think this is a dope addition on Rivals part. But what do you guys think? I'd like to hear you guys' feedback on this. Do you think that Jubilee being added to the game was a good idea? And do you guys like the way that they made her character? I'm talking about design with the abilities, how they work, the fact that she's like this hybrid type of strategist that can focus on being a healer, but at the same time can protect herself from enemies with being a DPS. I'd like to hear all those things. And lastly, how are you guys feeling about this new season that's getting ready to drop? Let me know that all down in the comment section below. And thank you guys once again for watching this video. I hope you guys were able to learn something. It was a little bit informative. I didn't want to go overboard with it, but I wanted to give the guys and girls out there who might not know anything about Jubilee the little bit of knowledge that they can get, so now you feel like there's a little bit more of an attachment there for you in that character. You know what I mean? So thank you guys so much for watching this. I look forward to catching you in the next one. And until then, Gojo Clan. Peace and air grease.